This episode of the Polyhedron Collider Cast is sponsored by Kienda. Go to www.kienda.co.uk/Polyhedron Collider for a discount off your first order. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Polyhedron Collider Cast, episode 161. I'm Steve Tudor.
I'm Andy Lewis.
I'm Sid Gill.
And I'm Rory Summers.
Right, boys, I've got to give you warning today. Fair warning, right? If you hear honk going on, right? It's not me gone mental, right?
Well,
it could be a bit.
Not just you.
But the boy has just found that he can play two-player Untitled Goose game, and him and Sue are going mental downstairs.
Oh man, I loved that game. It had no right being as good as it is. I giggled like a school child the entire way. It is brilliant.
It's stupidly awesome.
I didn't even know it was two-player. I played it one player, and it was two.
Yeah.
No, that is news.
You get double the honk.
Double wrong.
Oh man, I'm going to have to go back and replay it now because it's been a few years, so I think that's enough time that I probably won't remember most of it. And I loved it.
I was terrible at that game. I think I only got past the first level. I got to the street and couldn't get very... Yeah, I couldn't work. My brain could not twig with the puzzles. Yeah, you always mention about like moon logic in some point-and-click games. I swear my brain and Untitled Goose Game don't mesh.
Maybe it's because you aren't as chaotic as me. I worked it out really quickly. Just mischievous.
Mischievous and prankstery, Steve, is just not you, is it?
Yeah, maybe that's it.
Whereas me and Andy stealing pint glasses, throwing them in the canal,
Exactly.
is just right up our street. That
robbing a carrot from the veg
no
monger.
idea what you guys are talking about.
You've never
Goose Game.
play Untitled Goose Game.
Not
It's
Scooby.
so good, honestly. You just basically, you are a goose and you're just causing mayhem around a little town. Like you'll steal like a hose pipe from a gardener or his trowel and he'll chase after you and you have to like lock the gate so he can't get you. And then you'll progress on to another part of the town where there's a pub and you've got to like get in there and steal the roast dinner. It's just amazing.
It's ridiculous goals you've got to get. Like make the gardener wear a woman's hat. And
Yes.
get the gardener's dog wet or something like that. And they're all puzzles that you've got to do, but you're just a goose, so all you can do is pick things up and honk. That's your only two things you can
And
do.
drag things, yes.
Yeah. And it's the most British thing ever. It's like this quaint little village with like the village green and I said the pub and a canal and things like that. So it's
It's just outstanding. It really is.
Stupidly superb.
I think I might now replace the air horns in this episode with honks.
Fromage.
Speaking of computer games, Mr. Tudor, something slightly more technologically advanced, what we did, actually, before Christmas, a month ago. Time has
It was
flown.
exactly a month ago.
It feels like a long time ago.
Like a goose, the time has flown.
Terrible.
Oh, yeah. That's the level today. That's it.
I wish I'd taken a screenshot of that moment. So all three of us have got our heads in our hands.
That is the finest segue you'll ever hear in your life.
I forgot what the segue was for now.
We went shooting shit.
All hail the Emperor.
Just like goose hunting, in fact.
Oh, stop it.
Honk!
So for our Commander-in-Chief's birthday, we went to Zero Latency, which is a VR experience in Birmingham. And we were all, for 25 minutes, we were all Space Marines taking on a Tyranid horde.
It was freaking awesome.
It was
really
absolutely incredible.
I can't believe how good that is. Now, I've used VR before. I've used like PlayStation VR and like some old stuff like 20 years ago. But I was amazed at how good that was. You know, to the point where like there was points where you had to move up and down ramps. Now you almost got seasick because of like the verticality thing.
That was a bit weird because you were going up a ramp and there was no ramp.
Yeah. But like the fact you moved your gun, because your gun was actually in the VR. So when you moved your gun, you get your bolter in front of you. You can look round, look at the detail on the bolter. I just say actually, it's all based on the 3D models, and that were all based on Space Marine 2.
Oh, okay.
All the assets, all the environments, the Gribblies, models, the Space Marines were all based on that engine. You could tell they just brought that in and lowered the resolution a smidge because it needs to move at high frame rate and all that. But yeah, it was extraordinary.
Yes, it really, really was. I mean, I've got an Oculus Rift here, so I have played quite a bit of VR at home. But being able to move around made the difference, because usually, obviously, in your lounge, you don't have that much space, and you start, you'll kick the cat or, throw something at the television and crack it or whatever. But so you're limited for space. So the thing that bothers me if you're playing like a first-person shooter, which I just can't do in VR because I can't move very far or very fast, I just get horrific seasickness because your eyes are seeing movement and your legs aren't moving, so your brain gets confused and it just basically just crashes out and gives you the blue screen of death.
Okay. Your brain does that?
Yeah, because it gets confused.
Yeah. Okay.
Not Oculus Rift.
Not the Oculus. Well, yeah, no, you're seeing one thing, but your legs aren't doing what it's expecting, so there's a confused brain there. And, it's normal for people to stop vomiting. And I got, the head spin you get if you drink too much. I had that, but I was sober. It was horrendous. Anyway, if you're playing things like Elite Dangerous and stuff, because there's like a cage around you, it doesn't matter so much because you basically know you're static in a vehicle and your brain can cope with that. But in that room, because you can move around, it all worked really, really well because you physically move, so your legs move and your brain sees movement as well, so it's all good. And there was no sickness, apart from when you try to step up a ramp and go, oh, there's no ramp, and nearly trip over your own feet.
We all did that. I think we were all clever. Yes. But it was really clever there were 6 of us, 8 of us?
6, I think.
Six of us in that room, and the way we had to split into teams, and essentially when we saw the footage of the way we were in real life, just orbiting that central pillar. But for me, it felt like I was in this great big vast, world, but we were just walking around this one tiny little room for half an hour.
Mostly in a lift.
Mostly in a lift, going. But it was a truly.
There's one bit when we were split up.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we were like, it looked like in the game we were miles apart, but of course we were like 2 meters from each other because we're just like other sides of the same room.
Yeah. I remember there was some
saying
excellent crossfire action going on because we were on because we were on different levels as well. Like, I think we were on a bridge shooting down onto where Andy and his squad were. Really, really good fun, and it's so immersive as well. I remember that one point where John had jumped back and nearly landed in me because he was being attacked.
So Amanda was videoing bits of it when we were playing, and there's a bit when Andy obviously turns around as a Tyranid right in his face. You can't really see, but he goes, "Oh shit!" and ducks and runs back.
I remember that. Yeah, I ran away screaming like a little girl. But then I found a heavy bolter and then kicked ass. Cans of whoop-ass were opened.
I don't know what it was, but I always bumped into Sid as well. I didn't bump into anyone else during the entire game, but every time I moved, Sid was in the way.
I can explain that.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't see very well.
Fair enough.
Oh, yeah, the glasses.
So it was the glasses problem for me. And it was all just a little bit fuzzy, like somebody just made Vaseline on the outside of my helmet.
Sid was in the porn version.
It's all soft fuzzy focus. Boom chicka wow wow in the background. That's pretty much what I was doing.
I would say more, it's realistic. You had a bit of Tyranid viscera over your face. You haven't managed to wipe it off.
That was it.
That's nid on nid action.
It was, but it was awesome. It was awesome.
What impressed me was, just coming back to what sort of Steve said about and Roy said about the splitting of the teams and stuff, was that the encounter was specifically clearly designed for the room it was in. Because I had a book running that someone had run into the pillar in the middle of the room, but sadly it wasn't to happen because the game was literally designed where there was always something in the middle of the room that you couldn't go in or near, like, a vertical pillar in the room or like an altar or, the lift shaft or whatever. So it was very well designed, very fun, and I could have done that for hours.
Yeah. So if you do get a chance to go check out Zero Latency and play the Space Marine game, recommend it thoroughly. And if you do, let us know. Let us know how you get on, because they do share the little social media video footage afterwards. So share that with us if you do go and do it, especially if you go do it after this recommendation, which is highly recommended.
I'd like to know how well we did compared to other people who played it, because with me bumping into Sid so much, I felt we were more spill team than 40k kill team.
I reckon we're probably in the lower percentile rather than the upper. But it was fun. Really, really fun.
Sounds like a reason to go
I'd
back and do
love
it again,
to
though,
do
guys.
an alien one, like a proper xenomorph one. That would be
that'd be good, actually.
terrifying.
Oh God, yeah. No, that's what they need, don't they? I mean, there was a lot of unbranded ones, like generic
Generic zombie
shooters.
one.
Yeah, but yeah, that's what you need. It with some of the smart gun and some of the little. Bloop, 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 bloop.
The only thing is you couldn't have melee weapons. Could you imagine the chaos? Like somebody gets like a Mickey's mallet kind of thing.
I've got to admit, the one thing that was missing from Space Marine 2 is the chainsaw. And so,
yeah.
you know. But the amount of times I bumped into Sid.
Yeah, and I think if we had whacking sticks as well.
Probably so.
Cudgel
yeah.
sticks in
Everyone
there.
would just be giving like mallet, a big sponge thing, so you wouldn't actually hurt anybody, but you'd get some feedback if you clouted someone.
Yeah, I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I'd love to do it again.
Yep, count me in. That was ace. Shall we move on to some actual analog games now? We've done the digital side of life.
Oh, we're actually a board game podcast, aren't we? Yeah.
We are. Flirting with the modern age, but no. Let's go backwards in time a bit.
What should we start with then, folks? We've got a bit of a list here. We built a bit of a backlog over Christmas and New Year.
Like you boys have been in our little chat have been sending picture after picture of Inventors of the South Tigris. So
Okay.
I'd like to know why.
Because we were playing it.
Because we've been playing it, Sid, are we?
Yeah, but
You answered your own question there, mate.
tell me more, because all I see in the chat is picture, bit of a rant, very good, not very good, and I can't keep up. So I need the
Right.
first hand what's going on.
Right then.
So Inventors of the South Tigris is the third in the South Tigris series, which are all dice placement games of loosely themed. So they've all got dice placement in them, and they've all got a little bit of area control. In this game, you are inventing, building, testing, and publishing inventions, which are basically like 4 steps along this little thing, which you have a basic card, which is your back, and you'll add a card onto it to make your invention. It might be like the steam-powered rowboat or the self-leveling writing desk. And it's basically one word and another word. Although, to be fair, what the invention is quickly gets lost because it's all about the icons and what it does when it comes over to different parts of the game. In fact, we joked about some of the inventions we made, but we joked like once, maybe twice a game. Most of the time, you didn't pay any attention.
You weren't paying attention to the actual name. Oh, I've got a horse-powered boat, and nothing else was mentioned about that
the
thing.
breast-mounted voice pudding dispenser. It was just great.
And it could have been anything. So the general way in which you run this game is you have dice which you roll. You have this weird system on the left whereby your dice can raise up, brighten as it's called, and you had a little montage, and the left of your player board which was darkness, then sand dunes, and the beach, then the open ocean, and basically as you could move it up, they got better to use. So as with most dice placement, you'll roll them, you'll place them on placement spots, and you'll get an action usually based on the value of the dice you've picked for that. You have workshops, which are things inside your place you can place your dice to do general things. And then the main actions of the game are all to do with the 4 points: inventing, building, testing, and publishing. And they require various combinations of dice. But you also require guildmen, or guild masters, which are tokens on this board, and this little Tower of Babel, which I think is the clever thing TM from this game, in that you have, I think it's 5 cards. And each one of the guild members are little tokens. There's, I think, 6
of them,
tokens.
yes. You've got the
some of them is-
scribe, the mason, the blacksmith, the seamstress. They're all they've got icons denoting their craft, their trade.
Yeah. So certain tasks, inventing and publishing, requires these. Some will be face down your board at the beginning, some will be face up. And they're on like a little Tower of Babel, is what it's drawn as. And as you use them, they flip face down and move up a level. And when you cleared the bottom level, you flip that tile, put it to the top, and slide everything down. So you have this continued tower that continues to kind of rise up. And the higher your guild people are, the more expensive it is to use them. But the higher they are, the more victory points they're worth at the end of the game.
And the more bonuses you get when the turn ends.
Yes, you've also got a turn-in bonus. There's a whole bunch of other mechanics going on. I said you've got a little bit of area control, which is controlling these guilds at the top. You've also got this ship which moves along the board, which gets you pieces for your workshop on bonus tiles. And then there's a whole weird. It is weird because I found this quite difficult to do every time. When you pass, you put your tent. You basically like you pitch your tent on this other board, you get some bonuses. But what's interesting is you can take like minor actions even after you've passed. So passing is not like, oh, I'm done, I'm out. There's actually a strategic component of where you can pass and still do some little things and keep playing.
And those
after
little
you've
things
passed.
are sometimes quite powerful.
They can be. Yeah, but you're already passing from taking actions on the main board. Everything you do after that is just updating your dice and changing stuff on your own player board, which it's really, really powerful to do that early enough so that you can then take some actions.
Because you can reset your crafts people ready for the next round,
for free,
which I think is the most powerful. Yeah, exactly. So you can just if you just get that right, then you can set yourself up for the next round really, really well. If you get it wrong, you're going to have no actions.
I've done that.
Yep.
Yep.
I was expecting that right there. And there's at least one round where Steve fucked that up.
Yeah, when you start the round, because you get so excited because everyone else is passed and you're going, yeah, I'm doing this, going to do this, going to do this. And you refresh all your dice and go,
Oh.
I've got no dice in my active pool.
Yep. They're all
They're
at the bottom.
all exhausted.
Yep. Oops. Yes. It is a hell of a table hog as well.
But it's ridiculous table hog.
It is huge.
We played it 3-player, and I don't think you could fit a 4th player on our table unless they squoze at the top. Because what happens is you've got this long, wide board. So long, wide board, not long, wide board. It's this wide board, which is quite narrow, that has all the worker placement spots on, but then all the inventions sit underneath, and they're on quite like postcard-sized cards. But you have to have like rows of them underneath.
It's like a Kanban board, isn't it? Because they move across.
It absolutely is.
So you have, and some of these rows, was it the invention section is only ever going to be 4 inventions, but the build can be as long as anything is really. So it can as we were finding yesterday, we had as you do, you have the central pool of all the coins and all the tokens and the cards in the middle of the table. And that was just creeping down every 15 minutes because we've got to move it down. It's getting closer and closer to being on Steve's lap, really.
Yeah, we had the same problem on our table. There was only the 2 of us. We've only played it a 2-player, but we had the same problem. We had to sit on the same side of the table and orient the board in such a way that the inventions kind of went across us rather than towards us, because it's the only way the bloody things would fit. And we had to basically essentially dual layer them so there was only enough room on the table to actually make this sensible. Playing a 4-player game would have been bloody chaos because no one would be able to see the other side of the board.
Well, I was sitting at the end of the table, like head of the table, with it lengthways. So basically, every time I wanted to take an action on the main board, I had to stand up and walk around and then come back.
It's far too big, and I think I found that side of things very faffy indeed. I think it could have been done a different way.
Yeah. I think Arc Nova does a really clever thing with their board, although it is too big. But you flip it over whether you can, if you have the board one way.
Not the playmat.
Not the playmat, but the actual board.
The obsolete playmat.
From first edition. You can have the board one way and it's horizontal, and then you flip the board the other way and it's vertical. So it'll fit on your table, depending on. And it's something like that would have been really sensible with this. Depending which way, how big is my table, what orientation are we going to sit in.
The more I think about it, the more I think the game assumed you were going to do a lot more than you actually did. Because the space for published inventions seemed to be huge.
Yes.
Whereas our built and actual designed inventions.
We're all rubbish.
That is a very good point.
But the board itself and the layout notwithstanding, how did you guys find this game? Steve and I have obviously talked about this, but Andy, give us your impressions of this game.
I've played it 2.5 times, just to give you an idea of the experience I've had with it. The first one was obviously a learning game, which obviously doesn't count. We understand what's going on. Then we played 2 full games at 2-player, so 2 players each. And the first time I played it, I thought it was shit. I'm not going to lie to you. Both Laura and I were like, this is a bit shit's harsh, but it's a bit messy. It's hard to see where things are. It's a very busy game. It's hard. I mean, the action of actually building, inventing, and turning the card over to get the right benefit when you do it, to get the thing in the right order so you don't screw it up, is actually quite a faff. Once you've done it a couple of times, you kind of get used to it. You still have to check the rulebook every time you do it to make sure that you get it right, because it makes a big difference if you don't. And then moving those cards around, because if you nudge it, everything falls off it, and you have to re-put it back together. And the second, and then I thought, well, okay, we'll give it another chance. We played it again, and it was definitely much more favourable the second time because we were both used to it. We understood how it all worked and went together. So I definitely think it's probably the weakest of the three in the series. And I'm going to throw out there, because I've been playing Lacerda's Inventions as well, which is actually broadly similar in terms of beat. You've got an idea, an invention, a discovery, and a publication, basically. So it follows the same idea. And Inventions is way, way easier to follow, even though it's got the Lacerda heft.
Whoa.
Yeah. They're similar in kind of weight, I would say, actually. But I think Inventions does it way much, they do. I think Inventions does it so much better.
I think that's a really good way you've described that there, is that, and I'm going to have to agree with you here, Inventors of the South Tigris.
Right up, mark it down the calendar, people. Right then, listeners, this is your 2025 bingo card. Whoever had that one gets a star prize.
But you're right, the game is hard to follow. It should be this idea that you have to design something, you have to build it, you have to test it, you have to publish it. That should be quite linear. That should be quite an easy trajectory to follow. But this game, and I think it's largely to do with the scoring. I think the scoring is very convoluted, and it obfuscates where the points are and where your strategies are.
Yeah, absolutely agree, Roy. Andy and Rory agreement, shocker. Good Lord, twice in as many minutes. I think you're right. I was going to say the same thing. I think because it took us both games to really understand, oh, the cards have got scoring on them. Shit, that makes a slight difference. And then you put a card down and say, actually, it doesn't, because to wrangle the game in your favour, to get those scoring conditions, is horrendous.
It can be, but we've seen it done very, very well for a great amount of points. And I think this is where I thought, when we play, because the game doesn't have a scored marker, you just calculate everything at the end. But in your in-game, you're like halfway through the game, it's really hard to look at the board and assess how well you're doing.
Agree.
And although there are other games like this that I think Salt and Sea is another good example. There's no score tracking that. No, there is actually.
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
There's a very obvious score track that goes around the market.
Yeah, there is. Right. I don't know why I thought of that. I thought that was another heavy game. Anyway,
Red Cathedral, maybe?
You look at a board and you go, I know roughly that I'm doing okay, but I know Steve is ahead of me. And I can work that out at a glance. And then I can work out, what do I need to do to catch up to Steve? And likewise, Steve can look at the board and go, I'm in the lead, but Rory's only a few points ahead of me. What do I need to do to stop him catching up? Or to extend my lead? And with this game, it's really, really hard to assess where you are and what you need to do to improve, other than just doing what you've been doing and hope you do it better than someone else.
I would go one further as well and say, actually, you're doing that is actually slightly beyond your control, because in order to score points, the best way to score points is to publish something that someone else has invented or built. And you don't have a control over that unless you publish it yourself, but then you don't get as many points. So because of that, I think this game has been designed for 4 players, because you get the interaction level there, and there's the choice of those published things, which is going to be a lot more interactive at 4 players, because you've still only got the choice of 4 inventions at the start, which then feed that final bit, whereas 4 players are going to interact with that a lot more. In a 2-player game, you kind of got a lot more free reign, and you're then forced to go, well, I have to publish yours, you have to publish mine, and it's a bit more linear and a lot less interesting.
I completely agree. And I also think the other thing which I haven't touched on is that boat mechanic, which the boat moves around and gets you workshop tiles.
Boat's bollocks. I don't like the boat. I don't see the point of it. I thought it was just...
That feels to me like that only works at 4 players, because at 2 or 3 players, there's not enough advancement.
Yes.
You don't move far enough along that.
That's exactly what Alora said as well, because I said this boat's bollocks is nonsense, because you can't get past the first waypoint. She says, well, don't forget, at 4 players, you're going to be skipping over other people's boats, which is going to help you move along the track. Yeah.
Every time most of the time when you test the build, you attribute a coloured dice to one of the slots on the thing, and it's either an orange, black, or blue, which also represent one of the 3 temples. But they'll have little ship markers, and that allows you to move your ship 1, 2, or 3 spaces along the shipping row, along the coast, basically. And the further to the right you go, the better the tiles are. But every time you move
they get worse.
They're not. So not the tiles, the pickups,
same.
the bonuses.
Yeah.
But you move your ship along, and then you're going to pick up one of these bonus tiles that a workshop tile that goes onto your player board. But then when I move along 2 spaces, if you then get a 2 as well after me, you skip the space where I'm on. So you automatically go 3 spaces. So when Andy then gets a 3, he goes past me, past you, and gets the next space.
But then hits the brick wall of the next section. So it doesn't matter how far I get, I stop. And also, the further up the track you get, the fewer points they're worth.
One thing we noticed is the second lot of bonus tiles. So we haven't really explained this mechanic. Is what you do is you land your boat on one of these sections, which is called a workshop tile. You take that, you put it in your workshop, make one of your workshop actions better. So you basically add another thing the workshop tile can do.
Wingspan, that bit, isn't it?
Yeah, it is actually. Yeah. But what you then can do is take an action to take a bonus tile and put it on that space, and put an influence on there which gets you victory points and this bonus tile. Now, what I found really counterintuitive, and where I totally agree with you, this feels like it's a 4-player game, is the second lot of bonus tiles. You have to basically go for the first section of this sailing action to get to the second lot of bonus tiles, are for bonuses you get when you end your turn. I picked one of them up on my 3rd turn of a 4-turn game.
Yeah, I don't understand the logic, because to get to that point in the game, you need to have taken a workshop tile off to make a space, then which takes basically a turn, because you don't have that many. You have 3, maybe 4 actions in your turn, and 2 of those are going to be inventing and building, or testing and publishing. So you take 1 tile off, which makes a gap. Assuming nobody else robs that gap, you've then got to get further on the ship track again to take another tile to put it into that gap to give you the bonus at the end of the game.
And on top of that, the only way to move your boat, your ship, is to use the coloured dice.
Which takes
and
an
you
action.
only start with 2 of those, I think, or 1.
Start with 3.
3 coloured.
Start with 3, but when you use the coloured dice, it goes on the board and gets replaced by a white dice. So then you've got to find a way to get a coloured dice to replace it to do that action again. So you're using
incredibly valuable resources, incredibly powerful resources to move your ship along. And to be honest, really, when you're playing 4 players, it's like, well, if I'm the first person,
we haven't played it 4 players, remember? So we can't contact. We've only played it 3.
But my point still being that if we all know that moving your ship along is good, and we all know we need to do it, but we also know that whoever goes first is because whoever goes last.
Because whoever goes first gets their pick of the workshop tiles.
Just get the pick of the workshop tiles, but whoever goes last is going to be skipping all the places and get further along.
But they might not get a workshop tile because they might skip all the places. There is a balance there. I don't think it's as bad as you're making out. No. But we haven't played it 4 players. I wanted to have done it before we talked about it, but we didn't get 4 people. Now, I'm going to I agree with everything you 2 have said. And I think the issue with this game is I can't work out what the game actually wants me to do due to the weird way in which the scoring works.
Yeah.
Right, because we played all 3 South Tigris games one day after another between Christmas and New Year. And Wayfarers is a game which it doesn't tell you what it wants you to do with scoring, but every tile you pick up has a scoring condition. So what you do is you pick up tiles that have scoring conditions and you work around that. Okay?
You've kind of got a goal to work towards, haven't you?
Yeah. You pick your own goal and work towards your own goal. Scholars of the South Tigris, I think, is the most obvious.
Put shit in towers and translate stuff.
Translate stuff. Get loads of points for translating stuff. Okay, there's weird things around it.
And steal your opponent's gold.
Yes, definitely. With Inventors, we thought, when me and Amanda, especially when we first played it, that what you want to do is you want to build, test, invent, test, build, all in one go, and get it to the end. And then we looked at the points at the end of the game and went, well, hang on, this scoring doesn't make any sense.
No.
If you build something, you don't get any points unless it's been tested, and then you get put for testing.
And the person who tests it gets the points rather than you, unless you've got a thing on the publication. It's really odd.
I finally twigged after, I think, 5 games. I think it was our 5th game last night. And I finally twigged, and what it wants you to do is it wants the builder to test it to make it enticing for someone else to publish it.
Yes.
But I don't know, it just doesn't tell you that in a nice, easy way.
But also, you can still test it once it's been published.
Yes.
Which kind of defeats the enticement of making it good before it's been published, because you can just publish it and then test it, which means you can fuel your own engine.
Well, no, because if you publish something that's already been tested a couple of times, especially if someone else has done it, you don't have to you'll get the points for someone else testing it.
True.
And the person who built it just gets the 3 points. Anyway,
yeah.
I don't want to get too detailed into scoring on this, because I just think it's. I think Rory used the word obfuscate earlier, and I think that's the problem. It's not clear what the game wants you to do to get the proper points.
Agree.
So hopefully, Sid, that answers your question. That's why we've been taking pictures of this and ranting about it in our chat, because as you may have heard, and listeners as well, there is a lot going on in this game, and there's a lot to talk about with it.
I don't know, it just felt a bit like they got a lot of mechanics and chucked them at a wall to see what stuck, and kind of, it's almost like Android. Yeah, I know that's possibly a little harsh, because Android is a lot of mechanics stuck together, but it did feel a bit like that in a way. Possibly less convoluted than Android, but I don't know. But coming back to the Lacerda comparison, if you're going to play a game about inventing stuff, play Inventions, because it's much tighter.
I'm going to have to play this now, because to say that an Lacerda game is more straightforward and easier to get your head around than a Garphill Games game is...
I mean, I'm not going to turn around and say Inventions is easy, because it took a good couple of games to get our head around that. But once we're like, this is actually quite straightforward in terms of flow.
Well, it's taken me 4 games. It took me 4 games to get my head around Inventors of the South Tigris. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah.
Shall we move on?
Yes, let's move on to something else. Hopefully something a bit more... I can't think of any segues. Sorry, boys. I was trying to think of one on the fly then.
A little bit more. Where can we go?
Cheesy.
Inventors of the South Tigris.
Lightweight.
Something.
Well, yeah, let's go complete opposite ends of the spectrum.
Right, let's flip-flop. Yeah.
Quite literally something which is much lighter and quite easy to understand what you're doing, he says, with 2 very puzzled looks on their faces.
Are you talking about a cheese board?
I'm talking about cheese board, yeah. I tell you, my segues are just not on form.
They're
The
not
next
really.
segue should be easy, though, let's face it.
Yes,
Yeah, from here you should be all right.
Good God.
He's just seen the list. Andy's just twigged. So another game that a few of us have played, and this was a bit of a darling in a lot of people's best of 2024 games, actually.
I think only because it came out like on the 30th of December.
Oh, you think it was the whole...
I think it's like it was a brand new game that came out just before the year changed, and everyone went batshit crazy for it because it's a pretty interesting game.
I think because it's pretty helped, and it's got a bit of a unique thing. So this is Fromage from Road to Infamy. It's a game all about making cheese.
Go on then, Gromit.
So what makes this game really fascinating is it's a worker placement game. Right? And the board is circular and the board rotates every round. So basically, each round you can only place workers in your quadrant, which is facing you. And you can make 3 types of cheese to 3 levels. So you can make a soft cheese, a hard cheese, or a blue cheese. So you have a worker for each type of cheese. So each worker can only make that type of cheese. And each cheese is on a plate on the board, which is gold, silver, or bronze. And a bronze cheese will take 1 turn to make, a silver 2, and a gold 3.
I'm hungry now.
And where this gets really clever is you put it's a recessed board, and your cheese is a little wedges of your player colour, and you put your worker on top, and your worker is the cheese you're making in a little worker face on top.
Yeah.
But the angle which it faces consists with this plate colour. And then what happens is when you come to the end of the round, you rotate the board 90 degrees, and any of your workers that are facing you return to you.
Oh, that's clever.
Yeah, because all the pieces of cheese are little triangular wedges. So
then
obviously
they're like- it's
when
essentially a
they're
hexagon.
pointing in a direction, so bronze, silver and gold will be, up, left and right, or not in that order. But it's really clever. I remember Steve and I had a conversation. We got the game, and kindly provided by our sponsor Kienda. And we got there, and we were talking about it, and we were talking about Steve had read the rules, and he was like, "I'm not sure how it's going to work. How are you going to know when your workers come back to you?" And we got it to the table, and Steve went through. I was like, "Oh, that's clever."
Nice.
And it is. It's a really, really interesting, really clever, and very unique mechanic.
Should probably explain how the rest of the game works.
Oh, please do.
Yes.
You've got these 4 areas, and each out of the 4 areas scores differently. And I'm going to get the names of the areas wrong, but like you've got a restaurant where you have to do cheese pairings.
The bistro.
Bistro. What's a restaurant? Bistro, same bloody thing. Which is where you're going to gain points for having as many cheeses as possible because you score points for the plates, but your score for the plates will depend on whether you've managed to fill a table.
And the pairings, the cheese pairings.
It's pairs on each table. Then you've got an area control board, which is supplying cheese around France. And then you do an area majority at the end of the game to work out who controls each region and gets the best customers. Then you've got the restaurant, isn't it, with the table? Sorry, you've got to do a map basically. You've got like a snake, so you have to make a contiguous line of your cheeses across this zone. So there's a bit of area control there as well, and stopping people. And then there is the last one is the
Festival. Not the fromagerie. Festival.
Festival.
It's the cheese festival.
Where you get bonuses depending on each table, and you want lots of different tables, and each table has a different bonus again. So there's different scoring mechanics for each one. There's also 4 different kinds of resource you can get, and of course each quadrant also has a worker placement spot to get those resources. So you can get fruit to turn your fruit into fruited cheese or jammed cheese.
Jammed cheese?
As in jam
cheese.
to have as
It's
an
like a
accompaniment.
pickle on the side. It's an accoutrement.
Yeah.
We're talking to Steve who hates cheese, right? That he's not the authority on the things that go with it.
But you've also got you can also get animals and buildings, and you can make things. And so you can put if you put animals into the barns, you can make an extra cheese each round. You can make buildings which give you bonuses, and then you get orders. So every time you've got an order which particularly says, "Oh, it needs to be a hard cheese on a silver plate," if you make that, you've done that. You get points for every order. Basically, there's about 15 ways in which you can score points in this.
Oh, wow. Proper point salad.
But
A kind
all
of
very
cheese salad.
straightforward ways of collecting points.
Points cheese
as well.
board, you might say.
Indeed.
Oh dear.
On fire tonight. It all sounds very good, boys. I'm not going to lie. I mean, it's ticking a lot of my.
It's very light. It's very quick. It takes about 20 minutes to play.
Oh, wow. Really? That quick? Jeez.
Yeah, because it is quite literally, you turn the board, you see your segment, you can make a cheese, you can as well grab some resources if you want to do that. Place, rotate.
Because you're only placing one cheese on the board.
One cheese at a time.
Unless you're using one of the bonuses, you're only doing one cheese at a time.
You do need to add on a few seconds for the swearies, because some arsehole will be in your way every time that fucking board turns around.
Or the board will turn, you'll suddenly realise you have no workers
Those are
facing you.
really quick rounds.
They're fast.
The board won't actually. Oh, I played it with Steve and Sid on our December bunk off, and there were turns where they were both like, "Oh, I've got no workers." I was like, "I will just take my go then, and then the board will turn." It's really clever.
Nice.
If, Andy, I think you played the previous game, which is Canvas.
Yes.
So you know how Canvas has got lots of different scoring ways in it? You can kind of see that DNA come into this. You can see that they've pulled into that idea of the different scoring.
I knew the publisher's name was familiar to me. I was thinking, I have one of their games, and I couldn't think for the life of me which one it is. But yes, it's Canvas. I have actually the whole thing, and I've got the big box on its way. Don't tell
Just like Canvas, there's a lot of theme in this. And it is quite rich in that way.
But Sid, I feel there's a but
There's a
coming,
but, yeah.
Sid. Is there a stinky
Big stinky butt.
I made us play this twice, right? Because my first reaction to this game was, I fucking hate it. But there was something about it, and I don't know what it was. It was that mechanic of the tourney with the facey worker or whatever it was. Played it a second time, and I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. And I don't know where I sit with this game at all. I really don't. I think the mechanics in it are really fascinating and interesting. The whole kind of the physical part of the turning the board round and having a different segment to play on. And then the second game we played, I could start to see what we were trying to do. You know, things start to click and you start looking ahead rather than just the segment in front of you and thinking a bit more about what you were doing. But we finished playing the second game and I forgot about it.
Yeah.
It's until we're talking about it today, I haven't given it a shred of post-game thought.
Ooh.
At all.
Well, I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily.
No, I don't think it is.
It's not a deep game. I mean, it's a worker placement game, which makes it sound like it's going to be some heavy brain crunch. But as we said, you place one worker each round, you go into the next quadrant. It's actually quite a light game, I think.
Oh, yeah. It's
And
exactly in the wheelhouse for Road to Infamy. So if you like
Cheese
canvas,
wheelhouse.
can we just mute him? Right. But it's canvas is a light game, and there are some intricacies to that, and it's a very pretty game. And Fromage is an interesting game. It's light, and there are some intricacies into the scoring. I'm with Sid on this one. I mean, the game is the game set does exactly what it sets out to do. I think it achieves that lightweight introduction. It does something really clever. It looks really pretty. It's interesting. I need something a little bit more to make me want to play it again, but this game isn't aimed at me. Not only do I prefer my heavier games, I also absolutely abhor cheese. So when Steve said, let's get this, I was like, I don't want to play a game about cheese. I just don't want to do it. I want to play games about dinosaurs and pirates and spaceships. I do not want to play a game about cheese, which is another reason for me to not play.
Rory's ideal game has dinosaur pirates flying spaceships.
I think I'd be on the bus for that one too.
I think, has Rory played... what's that David Turksey game that you and I have backed?
Oh, Perseverance.
That's the one. Rory needs to play that. That's got dinosaurs and futuristic
It's got
stuff.
lots
Does
of
it need
dinosaurs.
all of them? Does it
It's
need
got
all of them? Cowboys are optional as well, by the way. But
I think you should play Perseverance. It's got all that shit in it.
I think you should, actually. I kind of agree with you, and I can't say I love this game. I can see why it's as popular as it is, because it's got that nice light.
Yeah.
It's lightweight without being, a pushover. There is a lot of thinking to do. There is some strategy. You can get in each other's way and be a dick. But at the same time, it's not a brain burner. It takes 20 to 25 minutes to play. I can see why it was on a lot of people. I mean, we joke and say it was like because it turned out at the end of the year, but it's that kind of lightish, easy to play game that's going to turn up on a lot of people's tables.
yeah, it is hugely accessible.
Yeah, it's accessible, and okay, it's just not our normal wheelhouse. It's not the big. I mean, we just talked about Inventors and Inventions, two super heavy Euro games.
Yeah.
It's just not our typical wheelhouse, but it will get played.
Yeah.
I can see this taking this round to the mother-in-laws, and because the family will pick it up really quickly. And I can see I can imagine you go to say next Aircon, and you'll see people playing it.
I'd like to play. I mean, it's an ideal game to actually play at Aircon because I'll just sit down with a bunch of folk and start playing it. Although I have just noticed, I've looked it up to see maybe I should buy this because it might be quite good for our Thursday night. Like a post sort of Euro game that you could just finish off a night. Or a filler or something.
Well, that's exactly what we.
£45.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's a second kicker for it.
That's the bit I'm thinking for a super light game.
I was keeping that back, but now
Yeah.
you've gone there.
I'm
That's what ultimately me off.
Because you can get, as we've discussed in our end of year podcast, you could get Salton Sea, our game of the year, for 28 quid. And there's a lot of game in Salton Sea. And this is super light, very pretty, of course, which obviously adds a few $. But £45 for a super light game, that does seem a bit
There's a lot of multi-layered cardboard here,
Yep.
which is where I think a lot of the cost is.
And bespoke plastic and bespoke wood.
Yeah, and bespoke plastic
Was
pieces.
it a small
yeah.
print run as well?
For that money, the fucking Lazy Susan should have been in the box as well.
Or even an active Susan.
Motorised as well for 45 quid.
I will say in its defence for that is you do have little inserts that slide into the board, not underneath, actually in. So that you can change the board between number of players and have a bit of variation, so each game's slightly different.
So there's a bit of engineering gone in there.
Oh, yeah.
No, there's a slot between two fucking pieces of cardboard.
Here we go. The systems engineer speaks.
Not cardboard engineer, I like
Sure,
that.
thank you very exactly. Heavy engineering gone on there.
You say that, but I remember Scythe. When Scythe came out, Stegmaier basically said that the most difficult thing they did was the dual-layered cards.
Yeah, it's lining them up for the print run,
dual-layered
yeah.
boards.
Because he basically
Yeah.
pioneered it, didn't he?
Yeah. That was Fromage, which I always want to say.
It.
I think Alora would like it.
Ha! Yes.
Yeah, I don't know whether I'm not sure whether you'd like it or whether you'd go.
It
So I'm
sounds like
pretty
you
sure
are
that-
going, Yeah, I can
Yeah.
see what you mean, Steve. It might be, I like worker placement, I like cheese, I like a lot of cheese, but I think, it might be just a little too light for my...
Do you know what?
my
Actually,
taste.
you've made me think about this. This is actually a game you could play alongside a cheese board and a couple of glasses of port, and it's probably bob on for that.
What you
In
need
fact,
to do is play this game in parallel with Vinyos by Lacerda, because I've been playing that recently as well, and you can have port and stuff in that, and they would probably go quite nicely together.
Well, you probably don't want to play it next to our next game in case your cheese gets stolen.
I
Because the
mean,
next game we played was Rats of Wistar.
Rats of Wistar.
that is the first segue he's actually landed, boys. We should
Yeah.
gently applaud him for that.
But I have a complaint about this game, the name.
Of course you have. Go on.
Well, it's called Rats of Wistar and you work as a mice.
No, it's because
No, there's our
because your
rats
chiefs,
in it as well.
Oh, stop it! You just
Just be a pin in the arse, you are. There's nothing
'cause
wrong with the big guys are rats.
the big guys are rats, and they lead a horde, a family of mice to do their bidding. They're in charge.
There's clearly a story there.
Yeah.
It's clearly.
So
Okay,
it sounds
I'm-
like Steve is technically correct, and as we all know, that is the best kind of correct.
No, because there are rats of Wistar,
rats.
and
They're
they're in
ratty
charge,
overlords.
and they have mice that do their bidding.
So what you're saying is you're actually placing mice, and just the rats are sitting
No,
around.
no,
No,
no.
you're placing rats.
because
Okay.
this is another worker placement game,
Right.
right? And you place your rats out onto the board, the circular board, because it's another circular board, another spinny board, which has its own grumbles, which I'll let Steve take over in a minute. You place your rats out, and then your rats activate those sections, and depending on how many mice are there to actually do the work, that's how many resources you generate.
Well, that makes sense.
Yes.
So you want to build up your mice and then put a rat in there
you
to
want
go,
to make sure
right,
if you've
hoover it
got
up.
loads of mice in the forest, so when you send your rat out to collect some wood, there's loads of mice there to do the work, so you get loads of wood.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I didn't see it like that. You put the mice in the forest, right, ready to do work.
Yeah.
Then Ratty comes along and oppresses them a bit and makes them do the work. It's not the rosy, friendly story tale that you're telling. These rats are true overlords. These are the
Dystopia.
pharaohs. Rats are the pharaohs of the mice.
Right.
Nice.
That was my takeaway from this
Rats
game.
of dystopia is what it should be called.
Rats of dystopian Wistar, yeah.
The cutesy artwork on this board is all to lull you into false sense of security.
Okay. So what's the spinny bit about then?
Right, so Rats of Wistar is another worker placement game, and it uses a circular board, but this circular board has got 6 segments on it, and each segment will have a different amount of workers placement spots on it. So when you send your rat out to one of these segments, it might be no, I've done this wrong. I've got them all backwards. I feel like I'm getting this backwards now.
No, you're right.
There are 6 segments. Yeah.
Yeah, there are six segments because there's
And
three
each-
zones.
Right, there's three areas.
There's three areas.
Three
So
areas.
there's six
Six segments.
actions.
6 actions, and then each segment of this wheel will have a different number of action slots on it.
Yes.
Right? So you send your rat out to one of these action slots and it will perform that action. And then the clever thing, TM, in this game is that at the end of every round, this wheel rotates. So where previously collecting wood, you had 3 options to go and collect wood, in the following round, you'll only have 1 action selection space to go and get wood. The following round will be 2. So this wheel keeps spinning around, and every segment will have bonus action. So it might allow you to do some more exploring. It might allow you to get an extra piece of scrap metal. It might allow you to do an extra movement or get an extra card. But that's what this clever little wheel is, and you can only use it 3 times. Well, you're going to use it 3 times, triggering all these bonus actions, and you need to migrate your mice around these areas. So if they're in the field, they're going to help you get more inventions and build more cards. If it's in the forest, you're going to build beds and collect wood. And if you're underground, you're going to dig out new rooms for your mice, which gives you allows you to have more bedrooms, which allows you to have more mice, or look for scrap metal. And then you've got a whole other section of the board, which is the farmhouse. And you're sending a mouse through the farmhouse to explore and uncover these mission cards and find new little mice to come and work for you as guest mice in your house. And the whole game is all about uncovering these missions, collecting all these things, and then inventing stuff. We should have gone to Inventors first, shouldn't we?
You've gone about this arse about
Have
face,
I?
haven't you?
Oh, go on.
Oh, well, you're here now.
I'm in.
Yes, so you've also got inventions, which is a core aspect of the game in which you will spend resources to make inventions, which are cards, which get you victory points, but also get you these little symbols, and you'll need the symbols to complete the missions in the house. So one of the actions you can do from the wheel is send your mice through the house, but they have to explore, they have to open doors, and they have to reveal the missions. And the missions will be maybe like fight off the cat in the kitchen or steal the cheese out of the fridge. And to do these, you need to have certain symbols which appear on the inventions you've made.
Is there an old lady with a broomstick in the house to smack you in the head with it? Like in a Disney fairy tale.
Might be actually at one point. Yeah. But you've got to spend actions from one of these action wheels to move around and reveal these things. And then the main top level, if you've managed to get right the way to the bottom of the house, in the basement is a big pile of cheese. So if you can get the big pile of cheese, you can get that back home, and that's a load of points.
Right.
You've also got missions, they call it. I think it's missions. Objectives, goals, which are like 3 of things on the main board. So it might be have 3 blue inventions or have 4 guests. And these are, I think, Rory, you described them similar to the objectives
The
in
conservation
Ark Nova.
objectives, yeah.
So the first person to get them can get them, but the next person needs 4 of them rather than 3, and the next person will need 5 of them. So getting them early
It works. Yeah,
it is better for you. So there is a kind of a loop to this game of getting the resources to make the inventions. The inventions are things like turning a skateboard into a plane, that kind of thing. They're all like little zany,
All very
together.
cartoony kind of, scrap metal stuff. Yeah.
So this loop out grabbing resources, clearing out your base, because you need to clear out space in your base to store items you've stolen and guests, but you also need to dig out bedrooms, which you need the bedrooms to have more mice to actions, explore the house, do the missions in the house, and get points and inventions that way.
Okay. Right.
In short, this is it's a Euro game where you really want to and need to do everything.
Oh, okay.
But
Wow.
getting any resources is really, you'll never have quite enough resources and quite enough actions and quite enough people in the right places to do the thing. And on top of that, you all have to do it at the right time, because this bloody wheel keeps spinning. If you're not optimized to do it at the right time, and someone takes the one space that you need, because this round there's only one option to do it, you're stuffed.
Oh.
And therein lies my frustration with this game. It's too easy, through no fault of your own, for your entire thing to collapse around you and you lose an entire turn.
Oh, that's
And that
not good.
did my head in. I didn't enjoy that about it.
Did you not?
No, because turn after turn, you or Sue got in my way. You took the slot I wanted, screwed my entire plan, and I'm there backfooting it, trying to make something out of the detritus that's left in front of me.
Yeah.
It became, at the end, for me, it all kind of fun went, and all that mattered was find a way to optimize enough points to not be embarrassed.
Ooh, that's never a good sign for a game.
It's a shame, really, because I think it's a really clever game. I think it's really good, but it was no way to undo a mistake, or even a mistake that wasn't yours. As soon as somebody took that slot for explore or whatever, it just there was nowhere else to go. There was no second way.
There was no way to pivot.
Yeah,
Right,
and you just
okay,
got
so-
shafted,
Right.
and it just took some fun out of it. For
And
me.
that's the thing, isn't it? And like I say, using viticulture as an example, as a kind of a quality standard worker placement game. You know, ploughing a field, there are 3 worker placement spots, and there's always going to be 3 worker placement spots. And if you get there first, you get a little bonus. But in Rats of Wistar, one round will be 3, then in the next round there'll be 1, and then there'll be 2 again the round after. And if you're not there, because this wheel keeps spinning, so each segment of the wheel has different layers. So it might have 1 action space, or 2, or 3. So, and because the wheel spins, if you really, really need to collect wood, if you really need to explore, if you really need to invent or do one of the key actions, you have to go to that space, but you have to go there with enough mice there to do it, and do it at the level you need. So the whole game, there's this, I think, as Steve said, there's this loop. You need to plan your loop, and you need to be ahead of that spin. And if you're not, you fall a crapper of it, and it's really hard to pivot.
And that's exactly it. Is you try and do the plan, you try and get that loop squared away in your head, and you do, because you can kind of do what you need to do for that. And then all it takes is somebody to go into that slot, and the entire loop explodes around you. You've got tatters in front of you, and you don't know what you're going to do, and you're just hoovering up any old junk for that turn to try and set yourself up again for the next one. And the whole thing happens again, and the wheels fall off again, and then you just get more and more frustrated. By round 5, I just wanted the game to back off.
It sounds like a much inferior version, in a way, of Terminus's Rondell. Now, obviously, I know they're obviously slightly different mechanisms, but the same kind of thing happened in Terminus. Like if somebody took the Rondell spot that you wanted to have, or they took the resources that you wanted because there's only a limited number, you could still do something else. Like you could decide, instead of like building a set of railway, I'm going to build a station, or I'm going to go for an objective, or I'm going to build a card or something like that. There was always something else you could do, and it didn't make your game massively inefficient because you'd be in the way of somebody else and they'd have to pivot. So then you kind of see what I mean. There was always something else that you could make use of.
I mean, that's an interesting thing, because in Terminus, there was that tug of war. So if they got in front of you, you could get in front of them.
Exactly.
So where you were disadvantaged, you then force a disadvantage on them.
Yes.
You don't have that really in Rats of Wistar. If someone gets all the wood, takes the one wood spot, well, whatever they're going to do with it, you're only going to go to that spot just to potentially block them, but you could be completely wrong about what they're going to do anyway. And if you're going there, it's going to be really substandard, and you only get 3 actions. So wasting one just to block someone is really not really a lot of fun. Go on, Steve. I see you've been itching to chime in here.
Because I'm going to go full Lewis on this one.
Go on then.
You two are wrong, and you two are wrong because you're both rubbish at this game.
Now, I wasn't quite sure when you said full Lewis on this one. I was like, which way is he going to go? Is he going to like really go, "Nah, you're rubbish," and it's actually quite good, or is it just a total shit can?
For the record, I am not wrong, because
You've got
it
a
is
record
hard.
that you are.
No. Well, what I'd say is, I disagree with the whole theory that the wheel is something that restricts you. Because I ran rings around you, Rory, the last time we played.
I don't know what you're talking about, Steve. I can't do that.
And I did this because it's like many Euro games in which you can chain actions. Do X to do Y to do Z, and you can do it all at the same time. Oh, look, I've gone and fulfilled this mission. Oh, that mission allows me to do an invention. I've got the resource to do invention. I do the invention, which gets me 2 wood. I've got 2 wood ready to dig my hole for next round.
Yeah.
Rory has what I have now called Rory Mechanic Blindness.
Oh, that's 2 episodes in a row you've mentioned that.
As I mentioned it last time,
You did.
I
Mechanic
forgot.
blindness, you did.
It's definitely come
I
up.
did. I thought it was an introduction. And what happened the last game? So as I said, there's a rhythm to this game. You've got to get resources. You've got to build inventions. You've got to explore the house, complete the missions, to get the extra stuff to do the missions, get the actions.
Okay.
Rory completely ignored the house the last time we played and was so obsessed about getting the resources he needed to do the inventions that he completely missed out on all this.
I did, yeah.
I think I can see where this is going. Okay.
Look, in my defence, it's a hard game.
It's not an easy game, but I will push back on that we're shit at it. I think we're not as good as you because you're savant like with your this kind of game, right? And your chainy thing. But it I don't know. I mean, I see where you're getting at. I mean, Sue got it. I mean, Sue played this with us, and something clicked in it for
Thumped
her.
us, didn't she?
She just absolutely, completely whitewashed us.
Yeah, it's a game I think you can't have too much of a plan. Because if you plan too far if you plan too far ahead, it falls apart. Because you can't always get the worker placements you want. Like the last game me and Rory played, where I did, as I said, I ran circles around him. I was intending on doing something, and I was planning on getting the wood to do this, to do that, and then went, hang on, by doing all this, I'm already halfway along doing this other thing. So I just pivoted and did the other thing. So yeah, it's a difficult one because of this limitation. It is a difficult one to get your head around. And I think if you try and treat it like a normal worker placement game, you will struggle with it. And I don't think that's not a criticism. I jokingly said you two are crap at it. It's a fault, but I don't think it is that. I think it's. I think there is definitely an element of working out how this game clicks.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And whereas Inventors, which you mentioned earlier, I couldn't work out what the game wanted you to do. This game, I kind of knew what it wanted you to do. It was trying to work out how to do that was the puzzle. And there's definitely another puzzle element. And once you've got your head around that puzzle, it becomes, you can't just go with the flow and off it goes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say I do enjoy this game. I really enjoy the puzzle and trying to work out that efficiency loop and that rhythm. I think rhythm's probably the best word for it. But like you said, I am just absolutely rubbish at this game, but I still enjoy the process of playing and the process of trying to figure it out and exploring it. I think it's a really neat, clever game, and I really like that twist on the worker placement. And every game will be different because those segments are extra pieces of cardboard that you lay on top of the main wheel. So every game is going to feel different because they'll always be in a different order.
I was going to ask that. So it's not a fixed wheel with when that 3 thing's going to come round. It's going to be different every game.
It's going to be different every game, and it'll vary on player count as well. Some of them they're double-sided, so on a 2 or 3 or 4 player, you'll have more or less options. Which brings us to the really interesting part of this. So you've got this big cardboard wheel that sits on top of the board, right? And what you know how we talk about like things that board games don't supply, though you need it. Like it's like getting a roll and write game, right? Or a flip and verb and write, and the game doesn't come with pencils, or it doesn't come with a pencil sharpener and stuff like that. This game doesn't come with a screwdriver.
Oh,
because there's an actual metal screw that you have to use to attach this circular board
seriously
to the board, and you'd have to do this every game. You can't put it away in the box because the way it folds, this circular board would hang over. There's no way to put the lid on the box with the wheel, so you have to take it apart every single time, and you have to put it together every single time. And you could
that'll never get old.
You could use your thumb, but it's like
or a kitchen knife
or something like that. But you have to go get a utensil to put the board together and take it apart every game.
See, what they should have done is they should have used the rather neat mechanic actually from there's a Johnny Pack game I had a few years ago. Oh, what the hell was it called? Anyway, some Western game. and there was a wheel in that, and it had like a 2-layered wheel, and they rotated independently, and there was basically a magnet in the middle of both of them, and it all just stuck to the board, and then you put the top thing on, and it just rotated around quite happily like that, and it was really, really nicely done.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know how like you got sulking?
Yes.
And like sulking folds in a really weird way so that all the circles can remain. Yeah, this doesn't fold in a weird way, it's just a bog standard bifold board.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's like as if they went, oh, we can't be bothered doing that extra stuff.
Can't be able
so,
to figure out how to do this.
just put a screw in, it'll be fine.
Okay. It sounds like you guys collectively as a group, I'm going if I sort of take the average or the mean or whatever it is, the mean average or the median average, whichever way you look at it, it kind of echoes the statements I've seen from a few people I saw. It was either it was either at Expo or one of the air cons I was at, and I saw people playing it. So I know I've seen the game being played, but I haven't played it myself. And I said, how is it? Because obviously when it came out, you guys were kind of like, yeah, Rats of Wistar, keep an eye out for it, Andy, because it might be useful. And I asked them, how is it? And they said, it's okay.
I think that's it, though. I think a table of people can either be really enjoying it and frustrated at the same time.
Yeah.
I think it is one of those games that there is no middle ground. You don't just have a meh game. You get a game which either is driving you nuts or a game you're loving. And I think it might be different. Next time I play it, I might be because my actions chain nicely, or I see something that works. You get the right
cards and the right inventions.
I might get a card at the right time and everything lands. Great, awesome. But I don't want a game that's a fucking lottery when I'm spending 3 hours playing it. Yeah. I want a game
3 hours?
Okay. It was something like that. 2-3 hours, was it? Something like that? I don't know.
We played 2 games in 3 hours. It's an hour.
Hour and a half. All right, there you go. But it was, I don't know. It frustrated me, this game, and I think you guys had a different experience of it than me. I've only played it once, so I've got a caveat with that. And I say the next experience, maybe I just got bad cards. Maybe I just got bad luck of the draw and things went the wrong way. I was generally last in the turn order, and I think that definitely impacted me quite a few rounds.
Yeah.
I think that's a big disadvantage, being last in that turn order.
And stealing first is
cost you a whole action,
cost you a whole action, and
cost you a whole rat.
Yeah, it can be it is very costly. Now, I enjoyed this game. I'm looking forward to playing it again. I think it's clever and interesting. I think it looks really pretty. I don't know whether the theme is a huge marry to the mechanics, but it's a really fun theme, and I think that funness permeates all the pieces.
It's a very connected theme as well. I think those objectives and the goals in the house all made sense.
Yeah.
Like you had multiple ways to achieve the goal, and each thing you were doing made sense.
Yeah. No.
Okay, I am curious.
Yeah.
Play it.
I think it's definitely worth a play.
Yeah.
It's the problem is you're right. Take an average of what we've all said.
It's all right.
And yeah, it's all right. But yeah, it's worth a go, definitely, because it does some interest. The way the wheel and the workers around in the different areas work is very interesting.
Okay.
And I'm surprised we don't see that in more games, because it's quite a fascinating way of doing things. No, I'm not saying the changing levels in which it moves. I mean the way that you have to move workers around to improve your economy.
Coloma! That's what it was called, that Johnny Pack game. Sorry.
That's what you got to give it. You got to give it 5 minutes to come back to it.
Exactly. Coloma. That was really nicely designed. Yeah, it had this sort of magnetic thing that sat in the middle. So that's what they should have done.
Right, I think it's time for a quick delve into the mailbag. By the way, we're looking a bit empty, so if you've got any questions for the show, please send them on your social media platform of choice, and we'll get on them. So someone pick a question for us.
Right, here we go, right? Would it be possible, Craig Turner asks, would it be possible to have a board game themed on Dunelm, and how would you do it?
Yeah.
So go on.
Oh, wow.
I want, let's do round robin. Everybody has to give one mechanic and how it would work and how it links to Dunelm. One aspect of the game.
I've got to start for 10.
Go on.
Go on then.
You know in Horror on the Orient Express, when you got the bag of push your luck, when you're pulling out the things, that's the argument with the wife. Right? So you just got to keep drawing. You've got to keep drawing until you draw the same thing, which is when when you finally get the right answer. That's how you make your decision on the cushions.
See, then you've got me thinking now. What it is, it's actually a deduction game where you've got to work out the curtains, the colour, the cushions, and which room they're going in. But you've only got like one piece of information. And then between you've got to deduce what the actual answer is.
Right. And I think you win this game. You get given a budget card that gets set at the beginning of the game, and you only win if you've exceeded your budget by the greatest variable.
I was going to say,
But your budget is secret. Your budget is secret from all of the players. So you've got to beat your budget by the largest variance.
So it's kind of like the opposite of QE, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think the entire thing will have to be done on a rondel, nice bloke, because that's your journey around Dunelm. Because you have to go around 3 times, because every time you leave, you go, oh shit, we forgot that, and you go back in again.
Brilliant. We've just designed the Dunelm board game.
I've got one last thing, because this is from actual experience. The final bit of the game is on your board. You've got like a polyomino, so you have to fit everything you've bought
Into the car.
into the car.
Nice.
And I can tell you that was from experience, because we bought curtain poles and we drove there in the Mini, and I forgot until I got to the car park. I went, oh crap, I came in the Mini, not the estate.
Should have poking out the back.
And I had to get to B&Q to get some rope.
Nice.
Brilliant. Oh, I want
See,
more
it's easy
questions
as
like that.
design, look. And on that ridiculous note,
Oh, thank you very much for listening, everyone. We have been Polyhedron Collider.
or a close approximation thereof.
If you enjoyed the show, please give us a review on iTunes or your podcast platform of choice, and share us with your friends. Give us some interaction on the old socials. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Threads and Blue Sky, as well as BGG Guild 2726. We could do with some more questions. Silly questions like that are always welcome, as well as the serious ones. We'll probably be back in about 3 weeks with some more reviews. So until then, happy gaming.
Ta-ra.
Cheerio.
Bye-bye.
What a shambles.
Oh, that's what we were going to need to talk about, which we haven't put in the notes.
Well, us being a shambles.
Shambles.
That's not news, Steve.